to Sports Plus Passion. I'm your host, Bronna Marks. The first topic today, the Astros win. Yes, the Astros win. That is something amazing. Seeing Houston, only 3 hours away from me, go through something like Hurricane Harvey and come out with an unbelievable win in the World Series is spectacular. The Astros had so much growth and they proved so much to get here. It was not an easy process. The Astros sucked. I mean, if we're being honest, nobody watched them. Nobody really cared to watch them. Between 2011 and 2013, they lost over 100 games. This season, they won over 100 games, and that's what made all the difference. They put in a lot of work to get their team to where they are now. They invested, and not just money. It's not about the money all the time. It's about who you take a chance on. And the Astros took a lot of chances with a lot of players, but it turned out in their favor. It took them 56 years to get here. It finally happened. They built players like Morton and Curachel, and they bought players. They did spend money on players like Beltran and Gurriel. There are some players that they did spend a lot of money on. They took their time in building players that a lot of people did not have hope in, and they took them and they saw something in them and they made them great. That is what gave the opportunity to the Astros to win the World Series. The Dodgers put a lot into the series as well, but at the end of the day, it came down to Yu Darvish versus George Springer in Game 7. There's a lot of would've, coulda, should'ves with this matchup to start Darvish against somebody like Springer who he's had a problem against pitching. That's just the way it worked out. The Dodgers were 1 of 13 with runners on the bases and could not score. They just couldn't get to home base. And Springer, he has been in a pivotal position this series because every time he scores, he puts the Dodgers up or he gives them the momentum that they needed. And it wasn't hard to believe that he was the MVP. He set 3 World Series records, 8 extra base hits, 5 home runs. It ties the World Series record. And he had 29 total bases, which is the most in any postseason game. He had the time of his life, and the Astros had the time of their lives. This is the third team in a row who has had 29 plus years of either not winning a World Series or not going to the World Series who has finally won. That's intense. It's going to be interesting to see who makes it next year. Topic number 2, the college football playoff rankings came out. Usually the first week, it doesn't mean anything because most teams have 4 to 5 more games to play. And it's usually the tougher part of the season. Georgia is number 1, even though Georgia is number 2 in the AP poll, and Alabama is number 2. This has been the biggest surprise. Alabama, they're a dominating program. They're always number 1. Georgia and Alabama's coaches, not too worried about these rankings at all. If anything, they don't really care. For example, Nick Saban, who is a man of many words, he explained that these rankings are just poison. And Georgia's coach, Kirby, he just believes it's a distraction, which is for the most part true. You can't really get ahead of yourselves. You still have 4 to 5 weeks left of games. So why are you going to hype yourself up about one change in a standing? The college football playoffs, they're a new system, and they still need a lot of improvement. Let's just keep going down the list here. After that is Notre Dame, Clemson, Oklahoma, and Ohio State. All of these teams have pretty good strength of schedule. Georgia has a win over Notre Dame, and that's the only loss that Notre Dame has. And Notre Dame has a win over big teams like USC and North Carolina State. Clemson, but they do have an awkward loss to Syracuse, and they have the 3rd toughest schedule. Ohio State has that crazy comeback over Penn State. Penn State fans were about to blow that stadium up. They really thought that they were going to get that upset. And Penn State is another left out of this top 6 college football playoff rankings that could also be a contender if they go undefeated and somebody else loses. There's a lot of situations that can happen, can change this ranking real quick. Another team left out of the college football playoff rankings is Wisconsin. Now, Wisconsin is undefeated, but their strength of schedule is not of the highest. They are in the same division as Ohio State, but they do have a few non-conference matchups that don't really match up to who Ohio State has to play. Ohio State also has a Heisman contender in J.T. Barrett. And then lastly, Oklahoma. Oklahoma is sitting at the top of the Big 12, and even though in the past the Big 12 has been criticized for being a weak conference, 5 teams in the Big 12 are in the top 25. That's the most of any other conference. They beat Ohio State, but they lost to Iowa State, which was a huge upset until Iowa State actually creeped into the top 25. Looking at these rankings, the biggest contender for now is Georgia. They're not the same team as before. They are beating teams that they used to struggle against. Ole Miss, who they beat 66-3. Now, right below them is Alabama because they are outscoring people by double digits. 7 of their 8 wins had double-digit deficits. Moving on to the NBA, topic number 3, the biggest surprise from last week is the Cavaliers. They have a 4-game losing streak. The Cavs. They have all this talent, but no cohesion. They have no connection yet. And it's the same thing if you look back when LeBron went to the Heat and he had to play with D Wade and all of these other top players. They have to have some type of connection. And they don't have a flow of rhythm. They're not sure who's going to be in the post every single time. They're not sure who's going to be in there for the corner shot every time. Especially when Ty Lue is doing things like switching up the starting lineup almost every week. There's no consistency. Yes, LeBron James is at point guard, which is great for him. He is putting up the numbers he needs to put up. But how does that work with everybody else now? LeBron James is usually not a point guard. So he does also have to create a flow as well. But he's so used to just going up and going to the basket or going straight to the post. That's what people are used to. They really have to start rethinking everything. And Ty Lue also was quoted saying that they're not having fun. Of course they're not having fun. You have way too much talent on a team trying to figure out what their real role is now. Now you have your top big man, Tristan Thompson, out for at least a month with an injury. Injuries definitely are not going to help the Cavs right now either, because then you have to replace somebody else in the lineup. Their assist percentage is looking a little weak. So what's going to happen with the Cavs? They have a long way to go. It may not be that the Cavs win another ring this year. They may even go to the finals, but they may not win the title. It is just the beginning of the season. They are 3-5. It's been a long time since they've been on a losing streak, but it's going to also take a long time for them to grow together as a team and connect with each other and find that rhythm. Topic number 4, this is the last topic, breaking news. DeShaun Watson of the Houston Texans tore his ACL in practice. This is devastating, especially knowing that the Astros just won the World Series and the Texans looked like they were a Super Bowl contender because of their quarterback. Watson gave hope, he gave strength to the Texans that they haven't had in a long time. And now they have 2 of those players who have that charisma that are not on the field anymore. Watson and J.J. Watt. Who's stepping up to take the place of Watson? Tom Savage. And let's be honest, Savage hasn't done anything in his career or for the Texans. And now he has to step up and do something. This man hasn't made a touchdown pass in 3 years. And the only time he saw the field this season was versus the Jaguars, and they pulled him and put in Watson. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens to the Texans now, Watson. If he's going to come back even stronger and even more motivated. Thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate it. Please turn in next week. Remember, comment, share, all of that. Make sure you interact. Thank you guys. Bye.